Welcome to Perpetual Life. I'm so glad that you are here. My name is Neil Vandry. I am your officiator tonight. It's so great to have you here in person in Pompano Beach. And also we have two groups watching tonight. We have a Zoom group that's interacting, and we also have a live stream going through YouTube. So it's great to have everyone there as well. Our creed here at the church, we believe that all of life is sacred and that we have been given this one life to make unlimited. We believe in our Creator's divine plan for all of humanity to have infinite lifespans in perfect health and eternal joy, rendering death to be optional. By following our gospel, we achieve eternal life, creating a heaven here on earth. We follow Nikolai Fyodorov, who taught that the transcendence of the Creator will only be solved when humanity, in our unified efforts, becomes an instrument of universal resuscitation, when the divine word becomes our divine action. And so we enter each day energized in spirit and empowered by the words of our prophets to live in joy, serving our Creator and all of mankind forever and ever. Our service next month will be the fourth Thursday in January the 26th, but we also will be observing Bedford Day in January. On January 14th, we'll be observing Bedford Day through Zoom only. Every day we get closer to age reversal, closer to making life unlimited. You know, just a decade ago, we'd be hard-pressed to find any articles in the media about age reversal, about defeating death. But now we get them in the paper every week. We're getting major breakthroughs. There's great things happening, and I'm happy to share these reports with you through our newsletters. Now, what about cryonics? Are you curious about cryonics? If you have an interest, be sure to see me or one of the people here. We'll be very happy to help you get more information about that. And we have a cryonics table next to the library over here in the social hall where you can get more information about that. Now, if you'd like to make a donation, we have a way to make a donation online. You can do a pay through the portal there. And here, of course, we have some donation baskets, and we're very appreciative of your donations. Also want to thank all of the people that worked on the decorations for our social hall. Thank you for the hard work that you did. Our next speaker tonight is the founder of this church, and he is a cornerstone in the age reversal revolution. Let's welcome tonight Bill Faloon with his presentation, an age reversal update.
This is going to be an age reversal update. I could spend the next 2 or 3 hours talking, but I'm not, because there's just only a limited amount of time that we have to understand what's going on in the scientific world. But a study that came to my attention just a couple weeks ago, was published in August of this year, corroborated what we already know about rapamycin. Now, that's a drug that has extended the lifespan of virtually every species that's ever been tested on. And what's unique about rapamycin is that it may not require you to take it your entire life, like vitamin C, to derive its benefits. It seems to induce longevity effects, even if it's only used in a temporary type basis, in a temporary way. So this study showed that a brief treatment with rapamycin in early adulthood extended lifespan, and it continued to induce beneficial autophagy long after the rapamycin dosing intake was terminated. And that's important for a lot of reasons. At the moment, rapamycin is too expensive. It's also challenging to get a doctor to write the prescription. And we're currently evaluating offshore sources of rapamycin to see which ones really build up blood levels, because that's what's critical. When you take a rapamycin tablet, you want it to get into your bloodstream where it can produce systemic benefits. So this study helps corroborate what you've seen before at this church, and that is rapamycin, even administered temporarily in middle-aged and older life, which is where most of us in this room are, it also extends healthy lifespan. If you started in midlife, a 60% increase in this laboratory model, and you started at late life, you've got a 9 to 14% increase in lifespan, and this may equate to about 7 extra years of human life. And what I'm hoping within the next month or two is to be able to recommend offshore sources of rapamycin that we independently validate to make sure that when you swallow the pill, it makes it into your bloodstream. Unlike a lot of generics, it seems that the rapamycin generics are not working as well as many other types of drugs like that. So we need to validate which forms of rapamycin work the best. Now, the brand name is Rapamune. Problem with that is it costs thousands of dollars a year to take a once-weekly dose of it. Very few people can afford that, and we hope that price will come down eventually. But right now, that's the major reason why more people are not taking rapamycin to extend their lifespan. And why are we wanting to do these kind of drugs to live longer? Well, we may be closer than ever to utilizing stem cell technology to markedly extend our healthy lifespan. The University of San Diego was awarded $8 million to initiate clinical trials in people for the first time, where the government's going to put big money into seeing how well stem cell therapies can affect certain chronic illnesses and potentially improve longevity in people. This was a major announcement, and this is in the state of California. Remember, the federal government banned a lot of stem cell research back in 2001. State of California set up their own research facilities and have advanced that technology. So we've got research going to commence very soon in people using stem cell therapies, and we may have some incredible findings to report. Until that time, remember we talked last service about transcription factors. These are genes that are able to be turned on or off, and the beneficial genes using transcription factors can be turned back on, detrimental ones turned off, like a light switch. And these can enable old cells to be reprogrammed back into youthful cells in the body. Very, very important factor. And earlier this year, it was announced that using Yamanaka transcription factors reversed aging for the first time in live mice. They've done it with cells. They've been able to reverse aging in cells all the way back down to the embryonic stage, but they weren't able to do it in live mice until March 2022, and it made some media coverage done at the prestigious Salk Institute, where they were able to reverse the aging process for the first time in live mice, reverse that aging back into a youthful state. And what happened is, well, again, cellular reprogramming. That is how we can take advantage of technology relatively soon to extend our lifespan now, to take advantage of some incredible breakthroughs in the future. OSKM, the acronym for Yamanaka transcription factors, and they found the longer these were administered, the better the benefits. The more age reversal occurred, no toxicity or cancer detected. Fantastic news. We've seen this before. A couple weeks ago, this appeared on NBC, and the scientists at Harvard decided, well, let's keep up with the Salk people and see what we can do about reversing aging. And according to David Sinclair, they've apparently succeeded. I'm going to play a brief clip of a 4-minute NBC news broadcast, and some of you saw it, but most didn't. There's a lot of news out there, and what's impressive is they're using the same technology, they're getting the same results to enable old mice to grow younger again.
And now, in what the researchers are calling the first study of its kind, Sinclair and his team were able to age the mice and then make them younger again. In this video shared by Harvard, these mice are the same age, yet one is visibly older. How did they do it? By literally breaking up the DNA, forcing the body to repair itself, which he says accelerates aging.
The mice actually do not just look old, but they literally are older by about 50%. They get gray hair, they get wrinkled skin, their organs are old.
The results were shared at a conference earlier this year and are under review for publication. This groundbreaking technology builds on the Nobel Prize-winning work of Japanese scientist Shinya Yamanaka.
So Dr. Yamanaka's work is being replicated in other places. We've shown this slide before about the Nobel Prize 2012 being awarded to Dr. Yamanaka and his team for discovering these transcription factors that can take old cells and induce them to revert back into a younger state, if not an embryonic state, if you choose to. So we're seeing cooperation of what we made a big announcement about in March of 2022, November 2022, we're seeing this technology evolve. So here's the timeline. to the Yamanaka transcription factors. 2006, they took in a petri dish old cells and made them young again. Fantastic. 2011, they took 100-year-old human cells, and they also were able to revert those back into an embryonic state using the Yamanaka factors. Well, look what happened in 2022. Number one, they sequenced the entire human genome for the first time. A lot of people thought that occurred in 2003. They only got about 90% of it, but now they've got 100% of that genome transcribed, which means they can target Yamanaka factors to turn on and turn off various genes to theoretically make older people grow younger again. So in 2022, they were able to also partially reverse aging in mice with these Yamanaka factors. That was the Salk group. And then 2022, research is going on right now using Yamanaka factors in humans. I'm awaiting results from some pilot studies, but it's been tested in humans for the first time in 2022. And now as we near the end of 2022, we see aging partially reversed again in mice, and this time by David Sinclair at the Harvard Institute. So what we have is two independent, respected scientific bodies using transcription factors to successfully reverse aging in live mice. This is such a major breakthrough, and yet it's really underreported. But that NBC clip I just showed you, there's a whole 4 minutes of it, it has almost 8,000 comments, and 99% of them are extremely favorable. And I saw some of the names of the people. I recognized just a few of them. Most I didn't. And the good news is a lot of people out there are interested in age reversal. They can't wait until this technology becomes available to save their lives. We all know about Ray Kurzweil. He predicted back in the early 2000s that we are going to be able to merge our being, our intellect, our memories into the cloud. A lot of people don't quite understand the concept. This individual, though, talked about it a little bit in the Wall Street Journal. He talked about what this church was founded upon, and that is to make discoveries, report on discoveries, and then share that knowledge so that people expand knowledge into greater fields of understanding in a way that we reach limitless possibilities. And in this case, the computer science. And this individual, by the way, has one of the most successful privately held companies in the world. He started just about 6 years ago. It's worth about $95 billion, and he feels there is no upper limit to what can be done with computer technology. And why that is important, the Neuralink project that Elon Musk is working on to merge our brain with the cloud, that is progressing forward to the point that Elon said that we may be able to live forever, if we want to, in the future using this technology. And the most recent news out of the Neuralink company is they might do their first brain implant with the Neuralink technology within the next 6 months. That's how fast it's happening. So let's stay young and healthy, because I'd hate to miss the boat on this one, where you could be uploaded into the cloud, the brain-cloud interface, and achieve at least electronic immortality that way, and do everything else you might be able to do. Elon Musk, by the way, has a number of successful companies, including the SpaceX, which launches satellites without crashing, and then the rocket comes back down to Earth and it lands where they can reuse it again. These are the kind of technologies you would think would be impossible, and yet they're happening on a routine basis today. But not everyone was so optimistic. This was a famous quote by an astronomer back in 1957. This astronomer just said, there's probably no chance that we're ever going to land on the moon, and if we get there, how are we ever going to get back? And this is a person who had a lot of knowledge. He knew the limitations that had to be overcome. So he wasn't talking out of ignorance, but what he didn't realize is the power of technology. Because 12 years later, guess what? They land on the moon and they make it safely back to Earth. So people who criticize the fact that there are scientists out there seeking to reverse aging and enable people to live forever, they may be in that position where they're going to be ridiculed in the future because it may happen in our lifetime. And what was science fiction in the 1990s? That is an asteroid coming to take out the world. And that argument, by the way, has been used against me when I say, you know, people are eventually going to live forever. And some people say, well, what happens when an asteroid hits Earth and everything just disappears? Well, they can do something about that and it's no longer science fiction. A couple months ago, they fired a missile. This is the first time they ever tried it. They fired a missile at an asteroid and knocked it off its trajectory. So it would not have hit Earth if it were heading to Earth. So we don't have to worry about asteroids anymore, ending our lifespan, ending the world, so to speak. We now have technology to circumvent something that no one would have believed possible even 20 or 30 years ago. Now, cryonics is something that some of us are enrolled in, that is being cryopreserved after we die, hoping to come back to life. And what's interesting is there's a lot of animals in nature that just do this naturally. Regrettably, we don't. And National Geographic reported on this frog that freezes solid every winter, freezes solid, thaws out, and comes back to life. And again, people can't do that yet, but we understand some of the chemicals that these animals produce, glycerol being one of them. And we use some of those in cryoprotected solutions to reduce the freezing damage that we undergo if we are cryopreserved. So the media loves to report on these things, but they don't correlate it with the fact that people are signing up to be frozen after they die, hoping to come back to life. And MIT is giving cryonics a little bit more credibility. This article came out in October, and they weren't endorsing cryonics, but they were also not attacking it the way it's been, well, since the late 1960s. People have been ridiculing it. They ridicule everything until it happens, as we know. So good reporting in MIT, and lots of people read this, and hopefully it'll motivate them to want to do something. So my annual holiday delivery, and I'll probably do this every holiday delivery, is we like to romanticize about the past. We somehow think maybe it was better than what we have today, and we picture people having a good time in well lit up places and everyone being relatively healthy and cheery and that sort of thing. But the reality was most people weren't able to do this. Most people didn't have brightly lit places to have dinner because, frankly, there was no electricity, there was no efficient way of illuminating. You had to be rich to afford candles or whale oil. It just didn't happen to anybody. So most holiday celebrations, if you could even afford candles, they were rather dark affairs. Most people just went to bed, by the way, when the sun set. That was it. There was nothing there that people could do. Most of the world on Christmas Eve looked like this. I mean, the sun set, it got dark, you went to bed, and you woke up the next morning. That was it. And people, again, taking for granted electricity, internal indoor climate control. They pretend like it was always going on. And the technology has always involved a pioneer who does something that no one would ever think possible, but they nevertheless put themselves forward. And again, back in just a couple hundred years ago, if you wanted light, you needed whale oil, super expensive, petroleum expensive, candles, again, unaffordable to the masses. And buying a gallon of fuel in 1850 could cost you a whole week's pay, if you can imagine. So it's okay, when people are talking, it distracts me. Okay, and then most people lived in darkness when the sun went down. So petroleum, we now know that we have a limitless supply of that on this planet. We won't need it forever. Nuclear fusion will take the place of that. But for a long time, everybody thought that the world would eventually run out of oil. When I say everybody, the experts would say there's only so much oil in the ground. When you pump it out of the ground, it'll be gone. It won't be there anymore. And Edwin Drake in 1849 did something that was considered impossible. It might seem simple, but drilling for oil is a very complicated process. He didn't give up. He kept doing it until finally he made it happen. And a lot of people doubted him. His investors would pull out. He'd have all kinds of challenges, but he just never gave up the way I'm never going to give up on trying to reverse aging. And many scientists I know have no intention of ever surrendering to aging. They're going to keep on doing it. And then in August 1859, he strikes oil. Wow, he made it happen. And that led to the Industrial Revolution that we have right now. And if you look at the chronology, up until his discovery, oil did not come out of the ground unless it was seeping. They just didn't know how to drill for it. But once they did it, they started developing pipelines and trains and ways to transport it. So 1861, they produced 300 barrels a day, and that was a record. And later that year, they moved it up to 4,000 barrels a day. And you look at what the human lifespan is right now, typically 80 years of age if you take care of yourself. A lot of people don't. What's going to happen when some of these Yamanaka factors become clinical treatments? Stem cell therapies become a reality. That 80 human years of life, what is that going to extend to? We don't know yet, but it could be many hundreds, if not thousands of years, if you look how technology exponentially improves. No one could have conceived tankers like this floating around the world. And I know oil's a dirty thing, but we're not going to need it after the next 30 years. Nuclear fusion will take care of that. But the fact is, without energy, we wouldn't be where we are today as it relates to technology. And as it relates to people who say only the rich are going to be able to afford to live forever, well, when Drake discovered that oil technology, what used to cost $10 a barrel drops down to 10 cents. This is what happens when people put some effort into technology. And technology is our salvation. Offshore drilling, again, everyone thought this could not be done. They're going thousands of feet into the ocean, drilling on the ocean floor, and they're pulling a lot of oil out. And it wasn't until 1947 that it really even happened. And many of you remember the 1970s oil shortage. And this is what really sticks in my mind. Every single expert said by around the year 2000, there will be no more oil on the planet to drill and pull out of the ground. We're going to descend into darkness, or we'll have to find some alternative energy source. This is what everybody said. Nobody disagreed with that fact, but this guy didn't quite believe it. George Mitchell, he's one of these heroes who doesn't let people tell him what he can't do. So he developed fracking, he developed some horizontal drilling techniques, and he was able to turn the United States into a major oil producer. Just think, in 2005, as late as 2005, we were supposed to be completely out of oil in this country, totally reliant on foreign sources, and by 2018, U.S. becomes a net exporter of it. The impossible happened in our lifetime. That is, unlimited energy from sources that we don't like from an environmental standpoint, but it's getting us to where we need to go with nuclear fusion, where we won't need to do any pollution whatsoever. We can even use carbon filters powered by nuclear fusion to remove the excess pollution. So you've witnessed, almost everyone in this room, the impossible happening in your lifetime. And you're going to witness a lot more as we move forward. So right now, the United States is the largest producer of oil in the world. We produce more than anybody, and yet by this time, all the experts back in 2005 even said, well, we'll be out. The United States will be out, and the rest of the world's going to be running low too. That's not the case. Technology came to the rescue. Technology is going to save us. So we can't wait for the nuclear fusion. This was announced just a few days ago. This will change the world. We talk about abundance immortality in this church. That means people living forever, but we also talk about people with having abundant food, abundant energy, whatever they might need, it will be available to them the way it is right now. I mean, people don't need to starve in this country. There's abundant food supplies, there's abundant energy, and this is unlimited energy that doesn't pollute and will elevate, it'll escalate the advancement of every technology beyond our wildest imagination. So I always like to conclude with some words of inspiration. New England Journal of Medicine talked about people like us, people like the doctor who just talked on the stage. We are the innovators. We're the ones that take risks. We take chances. And if it wasn't for us, well, medical progress just wouldn't happen. And I'd like to make people aware we should get comfortable with a little bit of risk. I'm taking the rapamycin drug right now, and I don't have any side effects from it now. I haven't heard really people complain much at all about side effects, and I'm hoping in the next couple months to be able to suggest to everyone in this congregation sources for it. I am not going to sell it, by the way, but that lets me promote it. It's illegal if you have a drug and you're selling it and you start promoting it for off-label uses, so I don't sell the drugs. I simply tell you which ones might help you live longer. So to conclude, this church was established to communicate and enhance communications, accelerate the Creator's plan for mankind to develop these technologies. And we've witnessed these technologies being developed since the founding of this church in 2013. We see it happening to transform our life eventually into an era of abundant duration, abundant pleasure, abundant whatever we want. There'll be no limit, just like there's virtually no limit to how much data you can store in your cell phone. It's just virtually limitless. So I want to thank everyone for attending this annual event, and I'll be happy to answer anyone's questions that they may have.
John.
Thank you, Bill. I just want to get your thoughts on the implications of the FDA's recent ban on NMN.
Nicotinamide mononucleotide, that's what NMN stands for, is a precursor to NAD. NAD is in our cells. It diminishes with aging. When the NAD levels get down to zero, we die. It's simply one of those essential cofactors in our cells. And unfortunately, the FDA has a rather unusual rule, and that is a dietary supplement could be sold for decades. You could have millions of people taking a dietary supplement, but if a drug company files an application to study that supplement as a drug, FDA can then take the supplement off the market. And that's what they did with NMN. It was a way that many people were using. It's a precursor to NAD, meaning if you take NMN, it then increases NAD levels inside your cells, which can keep you from dying. And unfortunately, the FDA has banned that. There are other ways to boost NAD, but who knows? Maybe a drug company will file something on that, and then all of a sudden they take it away from us. They tried to take away NAC a year or two ago, and there were so many people writing letters to the FDA in protest that they withdrew their demand to remove NAC from the market. You heard some of the good benefits of cysteine during the last presentation, and NAC, I think, is a lifesaver, but that was going to be denied us, but the citizens did revolt. FDA got inundated with mail saying, don't you dare take away my NAC, and then they backed off. As far as NMN, nicotinamide mononucleotide, it doesn't have as big of a constituency, but it's unfortunate. We've got regulatory barriers that are precluding a lot of scientific advancement. In this case, for those who can't get the NMN and don't know about other sources, they're going to have an NAD deficiency.
Question back here. Leonardo?
Thank you. Hi, Bill. Thank you. Regarding plasmapheresis, also called plasma replacement therapy, or PRT, which has to do with replacing one half of a person's plasma with an albumin and saline solution. This PRT procedure has been shown to produce a degree of rejuvenation of most or all of the body's organs. So are there any ongoing trials to determine whether repeated PRT procedures result in an extreme healthy longevity? And number two, how frequent should an individual do the PRT procedure in order to achieve an extreme healthy longevity? Yeah, please.
Well, what I can tell you about young plasma transfer, also known as therapeutic plasma transfer exchange, this is where you get hooked up to a device known as apheresis, and it runs your entire blood through filters, and they can remove senile proteins from your blood, put in fresh, healthy proteins like albumin, immunoglobulins, and we helped recruit for a study in San Francisco with Dobry Kiprov and the Salk Institute. We actually recruited all their patients for them, which accelerated their ability to study whether or not young plasma exchange will induce meaningful rejuvenating benefits. Now, some people are undergoing the therapy right now at local anti-aging doctors' offices, but we don't have the data on how well it really works. We should have that data later on this year. We recruited 80 subjects for this study. I think they're only going to study about 20 of them, but we'll know if this is something that we should start doing. Maybe once a year, go in for an apheresis treatment and remove the accumulated senescent proteins in our blood to enable us to grow younger.
Any other questions for Bill? Ladies and gentlemen, Bill Faloon. Thanks, Bill. So our event tonight has been recorded, and it's available to watch after we close. Now, after we close this portion of our service, we're going to have the Remembrance of the Resurrectables, and that's going to be flowing. So you're welcome to break from your meal tonight and come in and enjoy that. We're also going to be projecting it to the TV in the social hall. So the Remembrance of the Resurrectables is a cryonic remembrance of all of those patients that are in suspension at this time. And that's what we do every year in December. We'll be live and in person as well as in Zoom on January 26th at the regular time, and we'll have a hybrid meeting in person and in Zoom. And I want to thank you for attending our service tonight. Be sure to tell all the people that you love all about what you've learned tonight, and that they can watch it again in our recording and share it with your friends. Thank you for coming to Perpetual Life. We have a delicious choice for you of chicken or fish and some chowders out there and some good food. It's all ready for you now. So please enjoy our holiday dinner, and we wish you the best of the season.